All right, here we go. Again, as I said, Vladimir Putin went out of his way to make this, this public address to call for an Easter ceasefire that would last from, what was it, Saturday night to Sunday at midnight. Again, anybody that knows anything about warfare or, military strategy or anything, you don't just stop troops that are in battle like that, right? It's just not how it works. The message, communication breakdowns means that some units might not get the message in time, might not get the message till much later. Anybody that kind of knows what the hell they're talking about, who knows that it takes at least a few days, right, to set up a ceasefire where, all your units can step down, step back and get back to a safe hold, a safe place to hold up during the ceasefire. So yeah, let's get into this this video explaining what happened and telling you exactly why Putin's an asshole. Here we go.
Russian President Vladimir Putin was in a televised meeting with the military chief when he announced that there would be a temporary Easter ceasefire from 6 p.m. Moscow time on Easter Saturday through to midnight on Easter Sunday Moscow time. So that is 30 hours. He said he was doing this on humanitarian grounds. He said he hoped...
Humanitarian grounds. The hypocrisy and the irony of Vladimir Putin even uttering the phrase is beyond belief, right?
Hoped Ukraine would follow Russia's example. Those are his words. At the same time, our troops are prepared to repel possible violations, provocations and aggression. So he's trying to place himself here as a peacemaker. But of course, 30 days is a far cry from the 30 hours, I should say.
I was going to say 30 days is the ceasefire on energy and infrastructure.
There's a far cry from 30 days, which was proposed by the United States and agreed to by Ukraine last month.
Our decision on the Easter truce will show how sincere the Kiev regime is.
Excuse you?
You're joking.
An ability to abide by the agreements, to participate in the process of peace talks aimed at eliminating the root cause of the Ukrainian crisis.
So, Mazoe, what has the Ukraine's reaction been so far?
We've seen a message on social media from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and he said,
if Russia is now suddenly ready to truly engage in a format of full and unconditional silence, Ukraine will act accordingly, mirroring Russia's actions. Silence in response to silence, defensive strikes in response to attacks. If a complete ceasefire truly takes hold, Ukraine proposes extending it beyond the Easter day of April 20th. Again, kind of almost a backhanded slap at the fact that, yes, if you're proposing a ceasefire, our whole goal is to get the guns to stop, to get the killing to stop, to get the murder of Ukrainian civilians in military to stop. So yes, how about we extend that past April? How about we extend that past Easter? You know what I mean? Why don't we make it the 20th? Why don't we make it next month? How about 2 months from now? How about 9 months from now? Why don't we do that? You know what I mean? So you can understand where Zelensky's coming from.
That Ukraine will mirror Russia's actions, silence with silence, and defensive strikes in response to attacks. He's also suggested that if Russia was truly serious about peace, that it would extend this.
This is what will reveal Russia's true intentions, because 30 hours is enough to make headlines, but not for genuine confidence-building measures. 30 days could give peace a chance, says Zelensky on Twitter.
Ceasefire beyond the Easter weekend. He's also indicated a real scepticism, as have people across Ukraine today, about this ceasefire, simply because they don't trust Russia. They believe that Moscow manipulates them, and they've said that some evidence of this is that in the hour before the ceasefire, drones were continuing to fly over Ukraine from Russia, that air raid sirens were sounding, that there was artillery fire into the front line there, and that Volodymyr Zelensky says that even once that ceasefire began at 6 p.m. Moscow time, there continued to be attacks across the front line, and those air raids.
So, like I'm saying, it's the truce or ceasefire or whatever the hell you want to call it. Didn't last a goddamn second. If you really want to, thank you, Sally, for the gifted membership. I appreciate you. If you really want to look at it, right? Didn't last a goddamn second. They were firing drones, artillery, rockets beforehand. They were firing drones, artillery, rockets afterhand. Clashes on the front lines. Because you can't get fighting of this magnitude on a scale like this to stop, like just because the president says so in 2 seconds, right? That's just not how it works. Putin knows that. It's just, again, this is all one big mind game. Honestly, I think he's making Donald Trump look like an idiot. I think he's making Donald Trump look absolutely stupid.
Well, that shouldn't be too difficult.
Above and beyond the amount of stupidity that Donald Trump shows himself. Like, we know how much he appreciates and obsesses over the relationship with Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, name your dictator around the world, and how much he likes and takes what they have to say into heart. So he thought that he could control Vladimir Putin by this whole, I'll end it in 24 hours. This whole thing will be done by the time I'm elected. Once I'm in office, I'll get him in a room. You get him in a room. Zelensky here, fucking Putin there. So we'll have a talk. We'll have a drink. Well, hey, it'll be all over.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But now, not only is Putin making him look like a fool by extending this way past, obviously, the 24-hour mark since Donald Trump has been elected and even inaugurated, but now is even, coming out going as far as to come out and say there's an Easter truce, a ceasefire, right? Knowing full well that can't even fucking happen, really. Knowing full well there were going to be continuous clashes, continuous artillery strikes, continuous droning. And this makes Donald Trump look like an idiot. A lot of people may forget that he said he could end this in 24 hours. I don't. This chat doesn't. I remember him telling us this was going to end in 24 hours.
If I were president, and I say this, I will end that war in one day. It'll take 24 hours. I know Zelensky well. I know Putin well. I would get that ended in a period of 24
You can break that deal.
100%. It would be easy.
Not when he was inaugurated, when he was elected. Well, way the hell past that. So now Putin is just literally pulling down his pants and spitting in his eye, right? Yeah. You think you can control me? Yeah, here's a truce. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Sirens continued as well, he says. So there still is a lot of distrust there, not only from the highest levels of government, but also from people on the ground across Ukraine. They are all prepared for this temporary ceasefire promised by Vladimir Putin to not materialise.
I do not believe his statements, because Russia is a terrorist country and they constantly lie to the international community. They hoax and drag time to become stronger and start military actions again with new strength. That's what I think.
Tonight in Ukraine, and especially in Kiev, we expect missiles. There will be no ceasefire. This is what I think.
I don't know. It's hard to believe. They never keep their word. That's why I don't believe it.
Now, Zoe, we know that the United States has been inserting itself into these ceasefire negotiations so far.
And just, you might be asking, why are we watching this specific clip? I like watching foreign news agencies and foreign news networks abroad talk about the United States, because you get a different perspective on how the world feels about the decisions that the regime that's in power now is making, and the effects that that's going to have on them, and the effects that it could have on trade allies, military allies, you name it. So, you get a lot. Obviously, I started this because, you have to work so hard nowadays to sift through the bullshit of the mainstream media to find, even a few segments that are helpful, instead of just, giving two Democrats or two lefties and two Republicans, 2 minutes each to say what they have to say and go at each other. Right. So instead of doing that, I started this so that we could, take these clips and actually run through them and call out, each and every statement instead of just watching the clip, having it go by, another clip comes on, by the time you're on the fucking, the 30 minutes into the show, you forgot what's going on in the 5th minute, right? Because it's so back and forth. It's crazy. So, it's always good to get the different perspective. That's why I like James O'Brien at LBC, the perspective that he has on things, not only on UK politics, but also American politics. There's a lot of good news stations out there that you could find, again, abroad that still give you straightforward news as opposed to Fox News, CNN, MSNBC bullshit. You know what I mean? Come on with the circle of death.
We know that on Friday it said it would walk away from trying to broker a ceasefire deal. Do you think what we're seeing now, this 30-hour alleged ceasefire, despite what...
She's referring to Marco Rubio's statements he gave the other day, saying what she just paraphrased there.
What we're hearing from President Zelensky is in short truce. Is this short truce in response to that?
It certainly looks like it, doesn't it, Kath? Because it was Thursday when the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio was in Paris meeting with European leaders, bringing them up to speed on ceasefire talks. Friday morning, though, as he was departing Paris, he said that the US couldn't continue with this endeavour for weeks and months on end, that it needed to know that it needed to determine very quickly in a matter of days, Mr. Rubio said, if this was doable. If it was, then he says we're in. If not, we have other priorities. And then that sentiment was echoed hours later by Donald Trump back in Washington. He said that he needed to know that whether the US was able to stay in this, they would have to take a pass if both sides didn't indicate seriousness. So Vladimir Putin's announcement, a surprise announcement of this ceasefire, certainly looks like it is in response to that, because he's hoping to build relations with the United States, and hearing from not only Marco Rubio but Donald Trump that they might walk away from this has potentially prompted him to announce this.
And finally, before I let you go, Ms. Zoe,
that doesn't take into account the fact that it wasn't real, the fact that it was broken, so to speak, right off the bat, right? So the fact that he announced it is already overshadowed and overpowered by the fact that they actually didn't stop. So you don't give them credit just for announcing it, right? You give... you report on the fact that they actually did something or they didn't do something. And in this case, they didn't do something. But, I mean, you can see how it's gone already in what day are we in of this presidency? Less than 100 days in, we've gone from I can end this in 24 hours to we're going to walk away. I mean, if that doesn't pretty much sum up the expectations as opposed to what you're actually getting from the Trump regime, I don't know really what does, right? I can end this in 24 hours. Cut to the, it's a meme. How it started, how it's going. How it started, I can end this in 24 hours. How it's going, Marco Rubio. We might walk away from this shit, right? 89 days. Is that what it is? Thank you, Grumpy Cat. Thank you. It feels like it's been 100 fucking years since this motherfucker took office. Well, too, I'm right with you. I am right with you on that one. I really am. I am right with you on that one. All right. I think just a couple more minutes of this. Let's get through this one.
Reports of a potential minerals deal between Ukraine and the US. What details do you have on this alleged deal?
We're expecting it will be signed on Thursday, Kath, but we have seen this movie before, of course. You would remember when Volodymyr Zelensky went to the White House and there was that extraordinary shouting match. There was meant to be that minerals deal signed on that day, but then J.D. Vance and President Trump promptly rebuked Volodymyr Zelensky and asked him to leave the White House, saying that he wasn't appreciative of the United States' effort to help Ukraine. It appears, though, that minerals deal is back on the table. That the two sides, the United States and Ukraine, have agreed to a framework that would essentially have the United States investing in Ukraine's recovery in exchange for Ukraine offering a share of profits from the minerals inside Ukraine to the United States. We don't know yet about whether there are any security guarantees attached to that, which is what Ukraine really wants. So we're waiting to find out more details, and we are expecting to hear those on Thursday.
Friggin' I mean, the fact that we're even trying to get any money out of this is pretty gross. You know what I mean? The fact that we have to sign a deal with this country for them to, you know, in some way give up their minerals or give up what they should be using to make profit to be able to rebuild the country, in without exchanges of any security guarantees whatsoever. At least, I mean, it really is disgusting, and you can kind of tell by the way it's being reported. You know, there's the fact that they're trying to get this mineral deal done so quickly. Well, not so quickly, but so intently. Really, it's on, without actually focusing on the security guarantees for Ukraine, which is what is the important part of this. Is what the Ukraine needs, which is what they want, right? So basically, Ukraine's hoping, okay, if we got to do, if we do this deal, maybe that gets us in the door for obvious security guarantees later on. But we don't know with this administration what's going to happen from 1 hour to the next. Never mind 1 day from another, right? You have no friggin' idea what's going on. And I know, what was it? Scott Bessent signed, like, it was like the precursor to the deal. It was almost like their concepts of a deal, right? Or their concepts of a plan is what they signed. Or like the promise to have concepts of a plan. I don't know. The whole thing is ridiculous. It's kind of sickening to me, again, that we in any way, shape, or form would have to profit from what we as a country agreed to do with the Budapest Memorandum when Ukraine agreed to give up their nuclear arsenal in exchange for, again, security guarantees from the United States. So it's just, it blows my mind that we're in this position, not only of living under full fascism and authoritarianism under Donald Trump in our own country, but also turning our backs on our allies, or at least treating them like shit and extorting them, making this a money grab situation instead of a defending democracy, upholding our values, upholding our again promises for security guarantees for Ukraine. Should be much more about that than it is about how much minerals, how many resources we can suck out of the ground, in exchange for what is hopefully going to be some security guarantees in the future. So